All right, Ian.
Patrick. Here's our big one.
So,
By the way, we're in the podcast portion of the show now.
Yes, I don't know why you have to say it the past month. The podcast portion of the podcast. So, Nintendo PlayStation prototype. Yes, Sony developed it, but we're going to say Nintendo PlayStation until everyone else kills us here.
It's fine. It's fine.
It's fine, people.
It's okay.
So, the auction was announced like in January. It was announced. Then it went up for internet bidding. We talked about this before. It went up to like 360,000. Then Palmer Luckey came out within a few days, and Palmer Luckey came out and said, "Hey, I'm the high bidder because I might be doing some game preservation thing, and I preserve better than anyone's preserved before." I don't know what the hell that means. Maybe he's come out with something. Either way, bids were then retracted within a few days after we talked about it.
What are you talking about? He was like, "I'm the man." Palmer Luckey.
So then,
I got a big dick. I'm gonna swing it around and talk about all this money I'm dumping on shit.
Virtually swing my reality dick around. So on March 6th, Ian, was the live portion of Heritage Auctions that, that they do internet bids, but then it acts like a real Sotheby's or Christie's where you have a guy with a little mallet, what have you, and he reads the lot, and then he takes people on the phone. There's people on the phones relaying bids from real people out there.
Yeah,
like a real auction house, and
operators are standing by,
literally, like you have your own private person, like you're watching like an art fucking auction. But they started with the video game auctions, and then they went to I think comic art was had that. So it was like a whole weekend event for Heritage Auctions. This was the first time I remember them doing a live one, and Heritage has only been doing this now for about a year. These video game auctions. This is the first time I remember them going to a live one. But I guess when you have a one-of-a-kind Nintendo PlayStation, that's the time to do it.
Oh, and it's worth millions. It was going to go up so fast. They had to do this one live because it was going to be the big time. It was going to be the big stuff. They had turned down a 1.2 million offer. They were going to get that big money. They were going to get that $3 million. And then they got fucking $300,000 in what was the biggest wet shit of a live auction I have ever personally witnessed.
I was watching. Were you watching on Friday morning?
Yeah, no, I felt it deep in my fucking balls.
I'm trying not to do too much Schadenfreude today.
No, I don't care.
Which means reveling in the misfortune of others, if you know German. There. So this is what happened. So they had about 4 dozen, about 60 items. They started with sealed NES games, which we'll get into afterwards. Then there was like some sealed Genesis Super ones. But then the last one, before they moved on from video games for the day, was the Nintendo PlayStation. At that point in time, the retractions, there hadn't been a new bid in forever, brought it down to 280,000. And so I have his business card. I found it the other day of the guy doing the auction because he's a guy I talked to at Comic-Con last year. Was a nice fellow. The Nintendo PlayStation is up for bid. And it got one bid within about 20 seconds of them talking about it. And then after that was the sort of just the death knell of the moment where it was like, all right, 300,000. 300,000. Do I hear 320? 320 for which would be the next bid. Do I?
He looked like he wanted to say, "What the fuck?"
I hear 320, 320, 320. And they don't say going once, going twice. They say, what do they say? What was the term?
I can't remember.
He was like, "Oh, fair warning." Fair warning, like saying that it's going to be closing.
Yeah.
And then it was like a minute. I was watching it. It was like over a minute 15 of no bids. And then that's it. Hammer down. 300,000, which isn't nothing, Ian.
No, it's not.
But
as a matter of fact, it's almost 1.2 million.
Well, here's the thing, Ian. There was a whirlwind, tour of this item by Terry and Dan, who we've met before. Nice fellows. They toured it around, but that's not what bothered me about this story. What bothered me were the articles written in the lead up to this auction to puff this piece up.
Yeah.
That's what annoyed me. It annoyed me that things were printed without double checking, where it's like, yeah, I have an outstanding offer of 1.2 million. This thing could be worth, people are postulating this could be worth millions of dollars. There's going to be lots of bids. This is the things being written and talked about this. So we're going to start from what was reported in these articles by the seller, that there was an offer for $1.2 million that was turned down in order to do this auction. Obviously, if that's true, and I'll tell you in a second what the more factual part of that is, because I have the inside skinny. Obviously, that was a huge mistake to turn it down. We spoke on the show before the auction that, Ian, what did I say, Ian? Take the money.
Yeah.
I said take the money.
Yep.
There's no guarantee when any of these weird items come to market that they will go for any amount of money you postulate, because there's no track record of anything like this going for that amount of money. There's none.
Well, there's none, and and this should be very, very obvious to people, and I don't know why it isn't, but Chris Kohler put it out there afterwards, and I think it was Chris, made a good point. If you want to sell something for $1.2 million, you need one person to offer you $1.2 million. If you want to do it at auction, you need multiple. You need at least two. You need multiple people who actually think it's going to be worth that to drive it up to that level. Otherwise, the person who offered you $1.2 million is going to get it for slightly more expensive than the person who thinks it's worth. Well, and it's not even the guy who won it. But, which is funny to me.
It's funny.
Yes, but I lost my train of thought. Oh, but yeah, it could have been a heat of the moment offer. Lots of things could change that. A $1.2 million offer is not going to stand forever.
No. So Pat has eyes and ears when it comes to collectibles and things like that. When it comes to this, so Pat put on his Herm Burford out of control news hat here. Shout out to like the 5 people that got that reference. And I inquired about the offer because it was revealed in the where's the article that Chris put out here. I'm gonna bring it up right now. Nintendo, PlayStation, that the offer there was a real offer for 7 figures.
Yeah,
I learned. However, Ian, it was not 1.2 million. It was not a small amount. It was $1 million.
Sure.
That was a real offer that was on the table. And from my source tells me that the seller implied that it would take a few $1 million to get it done.
I'm having a tough time finding it now, but there was a quote out there, and this bothers me because it shows how dollar signs get in people's eyes. The quote was, after splitting it 50-50, after being taxed, after splitting the remainder 50-50 with my son and paying off all my debts, I'd be left with almost nothing.
Oh, that's in this article here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's a horrible fucking quote. Because being debt-free and having a little bit of something and making money with your son is worthless. Why do you think you're going to get $3 million out of this?
I don't know.
It's insane.
It's. I think when you look at it with other collectibles, like you look at Action Comics, there are, and Detective Comics, there are $1 million comics. There's multiple ones now. And there are, baseball cards worth millions and I think coins. But in those collectible markets, it took decades to build up to those points.
Right.
It took decades of time and serious money to get like the Honus Wagner card up to that amount. And that was celebrities. And I think I talked about before, like Gretzky had one or bought one, I think, and then McFarlane. You had millionaires that grew up with collecting cards.
Sure.
That then want to get into it. When you have a one-of-a-kind item that's so weird and it's a prototype, and that's why I always said in the past the podcast that be careful pricing prototypes out, because they don't have as wide as an appeal as you would think. So even something as cool as a one-of-a-kind that we know of hardware prototype, it could be, maybe some people would be like, yeah, I'd buy that for like 10, 20,000. Like, Ian, if you said, gun to my head tomorrow, would you spend 30,000 on that? I said, yeah, maybe I'll spend 30,000 on that.
Sure.
To have that. Am I spending 300,000? No. And there's probably a lot of people that probably thought the same thing when they saw that here. So again, there wasn't a real $1 million offer on the table that was turned down here. So it went. And another thing I'm going to say for these articles saying it went for 360. No, it went for 300,000. The 60,000 on top goes to Heritage Auctions.
Yeah, it cannot be counted.
That's not counted as a value. If Ian brought someone to me to buy, say, Snatcher on Sega CD, if the buyer of my Snatcher, that doesn't sound too good. If the buyer buys my Snatcher and then gives Ian $50 as a finder's fee, I don't get that $50. Ian did. So that's
Right.
not what the Snatcher sold for. The Snatcher still sold for what it sold for. So this is still the most expensive dollar item amount video games history that we know of. But let's keep it in perspective here. The one thing that bothered me at the time, and I remember I tweeted it out, and I even got a response from Kelsey, who gave Terry the benefit of the doubt. She gave him the benefit of the doubt. I knew a little bit more at the time, and it annoyed me. In the quote on the Kotaku article said, "I can't keep losing money. I've put a lot of work into this by traveling with it, and we have made nothing on it. Every trip that we have taken with it has cost us money out of pocket." And that's a bizarre quote, because I know for a fact, I know several people that run conventions. When they had Terry out to these conventions, travel's covered. Costs are covered. There might be even potential, as I know, food stipends put in place. So first of all, no one's forcing you to travel it around. It's cool that you get to travel around, but no one's forcing you to. But I'm not sure why you would bend the truth in a statement like this, saying you're losing money when no one's forcing you to market. You could sell it any time you want.
Right. You could do this any other way. In fact, with the internet, I don't actually believe there was any real reason that this thing needed to be toured around to puff up value. It was going to be worth something. Basically, let me put it to you this way. It probably would have sold for the same amount.
Absolutely.
If it had not been toured around.
Because the buyers, most of the people coming to these conventions can't afford this anyway. And the people that are invested in this know about it before it's hitting these local conventions.
Right. And if they're really interested, they can find a way to come.
They'll find it. They'll put an offer in.
They'll find a way to come see you. They'll find a way to check it out.
Yeah.
I need to say it too, because that also rubbed me the wrong way.
And I know, sorry to cut you off, and I know from speaking to one person that ran a convention that he said there are multiple convention runners that saw that quote, and they felt slighted by that comment because it misrepresented the truth to them.
It does, and I that's what I was going to say. I understand the basic sentiment. If you're not charging an appearance fee, sure, you could. You have to put some of your own money into conventions when you go. Your travel is going to be covered. Your room is going to be covered, but you may be buying meals.
Like I said, I knew that there were some conventions giving stipends.
I know, but I'm not even trying to give them the benefit of the doubt here. Just you're going to put in money for meals. You're going to miss days of work. You're going to miss other opportunities. Sure, I understand it, because I do. Even if I'm being offered to go to a convention, I sometimes have to weigh it based on the time of the year and the amount of hours I'm going to lose. Yeah, I understand. You can feel like you're losing money, but to say that is a slap in the face of the people who are giving you a platform to try to show off
market
what you
and
have,
promote your product to make millions.
And it's been known since early on that this was going to be sold at some point.
Yes.
So that I would say it's kind of rude at best to say that.
Extremely rude. That bothered me. I tweeted. I don't usually tweet about things that bother me. I said, why would you say that? What? Even if that was true, even if say okay, let's just say over like the 3-4 years of touring it, maybe I wasn't compensated for some of my meals and some of my lifts, and maybe I'm out of pocket, like we'll say like $1,000 over a few years. If I'm looking to make millions on that's nothing in the grand scheme of things.
It's a very woe is me sort of statement, and I don't get it whatsoever. They held up their end of the bargain to make this as cheap for you as possible.
What I would love to have seen in that article, Ian, was a comment directly after from a couple of people that run these conventions being like, "Oh no, we covered everything." So I don't know what he's talking about. But then again, that would have ruined maybe ruined the angle of the story. Maybe he would have got pissed by that. What I see this happening, I think what happened was this. In the past year, you have and by the way, I talked about the story before where Terry said to me in an airport, I got someone who made me a huge offer. I think it was in like Dubai or Qatar, I forget, somewhere in the Middle East at the airport, when he had it in the case, and I was like, okay, it's like you should. I don't think I said you should take. I probably said to him you should take it at the time. I forget, but it was. I don't think when he told me what he was offered, it wasn't $1 million, but it was high 6 figures.
When people see something like that in person, the excitement of it can take over.
Yes,
and if they're willing to offer that,
you want to get it off into my closet right now. You want it? No opportunity. Give it. You're gonna pay the premium.
You need to realize that most people, when given a moment to sit back and reflect on something like that, are going to go, "What
was I thinking?
What was I? I don't need to do that." Especially because there is no precedent for what this is, and this is the big thing. There is no precedent for what something like this would go for. You're offering $1 million for something that has no known value to it.
Value.
Now that this one has sold, if another one pops up, you can say, well, I want to make sure this is mine. I want to offer $1 million. But, you could offer something like $400,000. Basically, these people are going to sit back and realize, I have no idea if what I just offered this is what this is actually worth.
Sure.
And they're going to think on it. And they're probably going to be like, you know what, I don't need to spend that money on this.
Or their passion has passed for what they wanted to do with it.
Yeah.
It's like, nah, I don't have the ideas. That
You need
no.
to...
Or times change. I mean, the Dow and the stock market has crashed the past couple of weeks with the health crisis there, and maybe you looked at your portfolio and said, yeah, I want to stay more liquid. I don't want to throw out all this cash right now.
Right.
There's a lot of factors that go into people buying these things or not buying these things.
Yeah.
Maybe they had the money last year, Ian. Maybe now they don't. Either way, like I said, when you have that money on the table, you take it. Especially, well, I'm not saying you should go and hide everything from Uncle Sam, but you at least have a shot when it's like a private deal. This is not. This they're going to send you a 1099 heritage, and they're also going to send it to the IRS. So I did a little pat math. I like talking about financial stuff. So $300,000, Ian.
Boy, I love pat math.
Got a drawing of it behind it. If people have told me that heritage not only takes their premium from people on top 20%, which is insane. On top, sometimes they take from the seller as well, their cut, that they take 5%, which is nuts.
Really?
Let's assume if I was selling this, I would negotiate to them, you're not taking 1 cent from what I got. Let's assume $300,000 goes to Terry. So $300,000 could be, he might get all that money. It's a long-term capital gains, Ian, which is an investment or something you've bought, you've held it for more than a year versus short terms. The rules are different. So it's based upon what's called your ordinary income, or I guess if you're a salaried employee or you make normally. So if you are in the lower tax bracket, which I believe adjusted for last year is around $38,000, if you make less than that, you're going to keep all the $300,000. You're going to keep all of it before you get into state taxes. And then maybe local taxes on top of that. Definitely state taxes for income. You're going to lose some of that. That's the best case scenario. Maybe he ends up paying some state taxes, gets it back. Maybe he gets like $275 before he splits or something like that. But if you make above that bracket, you're going to be taxed federally 15% of that money. Right. So, pat math, do I have to do my head? What is 15%? 85% of 300. What is that? 260? $260,000, 300 times 0.85, 255. 255,000 after 45,000 goes to the good old Uncle Sam, and then you might have state taxes, so maybe it goes down to like 230-ish, something like that. That's what you're looking at potentially in a situation like this. Not to do someone else's taxes, I'm just letting people know that you do pay taxes on things like this.
Sure.
It's not free, especially when they're reporting everything to the IRS heritage, because it has to come off their books there. So $1 million versus 300 at most here. That's what you're looking at here. But again, and someone asked me on Twitter, well, the person buying it, for them, what does it mean for the future? We'll talk about who bought it in a second. But the weird thing about items like this is that you have no idea what this is going to sell for next time.
No.
It could sell for more or a lot less. We have no clue. When it's a one-of-a-kind item that's so weird, plus to me was artificially pumped up anyway. Who knows? The weird thing about this is that someone mentioned maybe, and I talked about it at the time when it first came out. This is before all the fervor. I said you want to sell this as soon as possible when it's hot, to get as much money as you can. That's what my thoughts were. But I didn't think. I go on record. I didn't think it hit six figures back then, like 4 or 5 years ago. I was like, maybe people sold about like 30, 40,000. I was like, different time, obviously, before all the WADA craze that's happened, heritage craze the past year. Obviously, I was a little naive to everything, but I do still think that if you had sold it when it was still like mystical, versus Ben Heck breaking it down and fixing it up, and then trying to do. Remember the Kickstarter they tried to do for the book and all these other things.
Did that happen?
The book, well, the Kickstarter happened. We talked about the Kickstarter, but
yeah,
the book didn't happen. They didn't hit it.
Okay.
But then touring it around. I mean, not to. I don't want to slam how this was treated, this item, but I was shocked at some conventions to see it literally out in the open on table, like on a regular table.
Sure.
And then people were just allowed to have controllers and play it with the TV right there. They could literally, Ian, yank the fucking controllers and bring it to the floor, like without that much effort if they wanted to. There's a picture online of someone having a drink seated right next to what you think's $1 million item. So thankfully, nothing really bad happened. No maniac tipped over a table or by accident. No one dropped the fucking thing and cracked it. Thankfully, it survived all these trips. Like, thankfully. But it's a weird thing when you see it out everywhere. The level of mystery and esteem to me drops considerably.
Well, I think it's that, but it's just excitement levels tend to die over time. And with this being a prototype thing that never came out, despite being an interesting piece of video game history, there's no real nostalgia for it. There's no warm feelings about it.
There's no fuzzies.
No one had a Nintendo PlayStation growing up.
My uncle had one, Ian. What are you talking about?
And it's just it's. I don't know how to exactly say what I'm trying to say here, but yeah, it's hard to build up feelings. So much of this video game collecting stuff is based on nostalgia and warm feelings and remembering and stuff like that. To have a one-of-a-kind item come out that has nothing really attached to it other than
it has a what-if historical value.
Right. And, enough actual information about it at this point to fill a few pages. Yeah. It's hard to feel any real attachment towards this. And the longer it's out there and the longer people see it, I honestly could see if this goes away for a while, I could see the value of this, or at least the excitement of it, declining. I think for most video game players, collectors, people who are in the scene, the excitement was actually just seeing that it existed.
Yes. They're because some people either had heard about it, forgot, or a lot of people didn't know about it, the story. Chris Kohler did a great article tracing the history, which is online. It's also in a certain Super Nintendo guidebook that breaks down the relationship between Nintendo and Sony, the development, how it all ended, and things like that. So at this point, we know the story. Yeah. Now this is just verified, like physically, that this was, a period in time, a moment in time where the video game industry shifted from a potential, like it's like Back to the Future, alternate 85 versus the 85 goes back and Biff's running Hill Valley. The time that it shifted, it splintered off the time, the time frame there. So who got this, Ian? This was video game collector Greg McLemore, who founded Pets.com and Toys.com during the .com boom. Damn it, Ian! I was born 5 years too late. I would have been a .com, millionaire. Damn it. Anyway, these guys are great.
These guys are great.
Well, I mean, like they made so much money off of, like, a lot of these guys had these websites and did stock offerings based on fucking nothing, and everyone bought their stocks and they were millionaires. That's what happened with it. Remember the Pets.com Super Bowl commercials?
Yeah.
Remember watching them? Like, speaking of the thing that wasn't Nintendo PlayStation. Why is there a Pets.com commercial? These companies aren't making any money. And how is this possible? Because idiots thought that they're the new best thing. Well, it was the Bitcoin of their early 2000s. That's how .com tech stocks were. Anyway, so it's the single most expensive thing I've ever bought outside of a house, McLemore told CNN Business in an email. I believe I got a great deal. To me, it was worth it, especially when combined with the rest of my collection, the whole of which tells a story I want to save for society. McLemore's collection includes coin-operated arcade games like Atari's Pong, which is the first commercially successful video game. I guess if you don't count the Odyssey, I guess. Nintendo PlayStation is blah, 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 blah. Anyway, so this guy's a collector. There you go. I did see also he wants to, he wants to perhaps tour it around, I think I saw. Oh, McLemore said the console will show up in various exhibitions in the near future. He's already working with the USC Pacific Asia Museum in California. Okay. On an interactive gaming for the spring and summer of 2021. Okay, that's grammatically incorrect. Which could feature Nintendo PlayStation. So it'll show up here and there. So that's good. So it's going to be like museum exhibits touring around, I guess. Still,
So
it's good.
even the worst case scenario that everyone was afraid of doesn't appear to be. That's it. It's not going to go sit in some closet forever.
Eventually, he'll consider opening a permanent museum after seeing how things go with the exhibits he has planned. If that works, fantastic. If not, I've already identified other institutions that I think could be a good adoptive parent. So this is the best case scenario.
This is really not a bad outcome to it.
This is great.
Yeah,
it's fantastic. It's still gonna be in the public eye. It's still going to it's not going to be locked away in some guy's whatever basement forever here. Real quick, Ian, do you want to go? Let's go over some of the other results here. It's hard to bring it up on Heritage. It's so hard. I got some of the other big time results. You ready?
Yep.
Some of them. We'll just do the top 10 or 15 here because some of these are nuts. Stadium event sealed $66,000. I wonder if the person bidding on that knows that there are at minimal 20 other sealed copies that exist that we know of. The 18 that either Tim went through, 12 Tim sold or gave away. He still has 6, but there's 2 or 3 others. This might be one of them. There's about 20 of these sealed that we know of.
What did it go for?
$66,000. I think the previous one went between 30 and 40 for a sealed one, I think. A sealed Mike Tyson's Punch Out, not even the first print. Rev A, $45,600.
That's wild.
Super Mario Brothers Oval SOQTM, whatever, late production. WATA 9.8 sealed. So by that point they were actually sealed. $20,400. I was at conventions 3-4 years ago and saw those selling for like $300-$400, a price that no one was buying them. Again, great for the people making the money. Not good for the people buying them. I don't think they have any idea they know how scarce or available these things actually are.
Yeah, or how fragile that price point could be.
I would see a cellophane seal Super Mario Brothers. Again, I'm not kidding. I saw for $300-$400 at conventions. More than one in a year. I'd go and see. And I thought, okay, that's a cool thing to have. Do I want to get it? I was like, no. Maybe I should have got it. I'd be $20,000 richer.
Yeah.
$18,000 for a sealed Little Samson. A sealed hang tab mid-production. That's sealed cellophane. Donkey Kong 3, $16,200. Your favorite, Clue Land, mid-production sealed, $15.6K. Gumshoe. Ian, you love Clue Land. Do you think a sealed one constitutes a $15.6K
I mean,
price?
it's not my market. I have nothing to say here, but no, I can't imagine that it would. At least it shouldn't have not.
But I mean, that's not a memorable. I know you love it, but it's not a game in the. You can tell the story of video games without Clue Land. That's pretty much the point.
Yeah, you can.
And Gumshoe for $15,000. You can tell. You can bypass Gumshoe as quickly as you want to, even though it's a quirky little game that we like playing on the NES Marathon. A Family Fun Fitness Pad with a sealed first edition Athletic World, which is to me the toughest game to find in the box, which I own somewhere up there. I went for $12,600. Holy shit! A volleyball, 12. A Chrono Trigger seal went for 11.4. What's funny is that's brought up in the Not For Resale Video Game Store documentary. Joe Santulli in the basement, remember, he has one. He goes, "Oh, this goes for like 1,000 or 2." It's like, well, that was quaint back then. Wow. That's a quaint little price point. Pro Wrestling, 11.1K. Secret of Mana, 10.2. Come on.
That's wild.
Come on. Super Mario Brothers 3 with a right bros, not a left, 9.3. A Contra, 9,000. Legend of Zelda, a later production, 6.6. Then you get to ones that are like, this is why you know it's a different market. A Donkey Kong Country competition card or something that's really rare only went for 5.5 thousand. Now you get to the crazy stuff, really crazy. A sealed Ninja Turtles went for 4.8 thousand. To me, that's nuts.
That actually, see, to me, that makes more sense.
Makes more sense to you?
That makes more sense.
Okay.
Ninja Turtles is not just a video game.
Sure.
I mean, it probably just went to a video game person, but it's like Star Wars video games, Ninja Turtles video games that are licensed or based on other stuff. That stuff I could see at any point in time bucking trends because of it's attached to something else that collectors are into.
Okay, you look at it like that. I look at it as that's not an early NES release. That's in the middle age of the NES. What was that, 89?
No, it's not. But I'm looking at it as Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles memorabilia, not a video game.
Unlike Clue Land, they sold millions of Ninja Turtles on the NES.
They sure did.
And there's a lot more probably sealed up there than you probably think.
I'm not saying that. Yeah. I'm not saying that the price is sensible, but it makes
someone bidding on it.
It makes sense to me that it could get that high.
Zelda 2: The Adventure of Link, Rev A. I own this sealed actually with a little cut marked out where I think the price tag was. It went for $4,500. Again, that same realm of it was 89 Ninja Turtles. The same realm of they sold millions of these. There's got to be a decent amount of sealed ones out there. That's the way I look at it there. So those are there's other ones that went for fuck me. A elevator action went for 3.1K even sealed. Holy shit. So that's where you're at here. A sealed GoldenEye went for 3.1K. There's a ton of sealed GoldenEyes out there. There has to be. There has to be. That game's not even 25 years old at this point. So to me, wow, 3D World Runner. I love 3D World Runner went for 2.4K. So there you have it, Ian. And then it goes down from there. And then ones that you think are the ones that are rare go for a lot less than you think. Some of them because it's a different market. They're not looking into it. Wow, a sealed Metal Gear Solid on PlayStation went for 1.3K. You know. So there you have it. Here. All right, anything else to add here?
No.
The test card only went for $9.90.
I like the test card.
I don't have a test card. I don't have an NES test card still.
Really? Weird.
I never got one. I bet I won a live auction at SoCal a few years ago, and someone just basically said to me, "I'm going to keep bidding it up," and I'm like, "Okay, don't let you have it for cheaper," because a guy collected a bunch of the test cards. I just want one. I just want one test card. That's all. Anyway, bases loaded, Ian, went for $720.
Yeah. Ooh.
There's not many of those out there. See, this is again. Not to harp on it. This is a weird thing. The Maximum Carnage exclusive collector's edition, the big box you never see, that only went for $780. To me, that's a deal compared to the rest because you don't find that out there too much. There. Anyway, all right. Anything else to add, Ian? So, is there a moral to take away from this Nintendo PlayStation story? Is not. Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot to add this entire point here. I have no idea, and I'd feel bad for Terry if Heritage talked him out of the private deals. Got in his ear saying, "Hey, you got offered $1 million. That means there's 5 other people that'll build it up, bid it up before that." And Terry might have said, "Well, you know what? You might be right about that. You guys know more about me." But Heritage doesn't give a shit because Heritage is going to make money no matter what. Heritage makes $60,000 by Terry making $700,000 less. Then Heritage would have made nothing. So Heritage doesn't give a shit about your well-being. They just want to make their money.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to. I'm sure there was lots of people in Terry's ear. I don't want to postulate on that, though. I would say that, I mean, if there's one moral to be taken away from it here is when you're offered an insane amount of money for something, you take it. You try not to let dollar signs, and I hate to use the word because it has a very negative connotation, but it is what it is in this situation. Greed get in the way. There was no precedent, nothing that reasonably told anyone
That this was going to be
that this should be a $3 million item.
Let alone $1 million, besides the 1 or 2 people that offered that much.
And one person who offers it, you can't take that. You cannot, even if one person offered it, you cannot look at it and be like, all of these are worth $1 million, or this is what this is worth now. Sure. Even if it's sold, with it being the only one, you can't look at it and be like, this is necessarily worth $1 million, because you have to, without a history of sales to go on, you don't know if it's like we said, some guy got in front of it and was like, screw it, I'm emptying my bank account to get this because I want it now. There is one thing to say about auction, is that by looking at this auction and by it being pumped up, by the news being out there, by people having time, I think you really do have a much better idea of what this is actually worth.
Sure, and even with that, maybe
because cooler yes, with even that, there's probably some inflation. But cooler heads are certainly prevailing when it comes to an auction that is going over the course of a couple of weeks.
And this looks bad for Heritage Auctions that this got one live bid, but as their featured item, this looks bad.
Sure.
Looks bad, and unfortunately, the people that were just bidding on whatever their Clue Clans, it looks bad for them too, because it drags them into it. This is going to be because the rising tide raises all ships or whatever. That this tide didn't rise. It just sort of like it sort of just simpered out on this item. I'll go on record. I didn't think it would get only one bid. I thought it was going to go maybe like 700,000. It would get up to there. I thought there'd be a few crazy people, but there were no crazy people. That was it. The crazy people were already out of it.
Yeah, I honestly didn't think it was going to go above what the original offer was. I didn't think it would actually hit the original offer. I was of the thought that, well, okay, this was turned down. I honestly can't imagine that there's that many people out there that would pay $1.2 million for this. No. So my thinking was always along that lines that we've seen online that you need multiple people who want it for that amount for it to actually go for that much at auction. So my guess was that, probably about 700. Yeah. Especially for that brief moment when Palmer Luckey came out and said, "Oh, I'm the big bidder," at that point, I think he said something like, "I'm going to keep bidding on it," or he said something like, "I've got tons of money."
He didn't bid on it,
right? Which further proves our point that even anyone who's in the moment immediately interested in this could sit back and go, maybe I don't want this for that much money.
Or maybe I can't get any use out of this.
But I felt, but the thing, that could have also scared other bidders away. I mean, he had kind of made it seem like I'm going to get this no matter what. So why, I don't know.
Oh, the bully thing. I always say the bully thing doesn't really work when it comes to these
sure.
offers. There's always someone that has just as much money as you, or potentially more. This guy from Pets Like I'm has a ton of money, obviously. So he said he got a deal on it. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Like maybe it's one of those things where it comes up for sale like 15, 20 years from now when this guy wants to retire. Then maybe it goes for a couple million because now it's like so far removed, like 50 years away. Or maybe it goes for nothing, because we're all gonna be dead by then. We won't care. Again, one of a kind items, prototypes, hard to value. I said that about NES game prototypes for years. So hard to value something like this. Where
I feel like if it was turned around and sold tomorrow, it would get $250,000.
It would. Well, you immediately have him not bidding on it, so it has to go down.
I don't think there's anyone who's out there sitting going, "Damn, I wish."
You think so? Palmer's not like, "Damn, I wish I got it."
Yeah, I would see 200, 250. And if that were to happen, if it were to be sold again very soon, you would see the, 1.2 million offer that was turned down because they won 3 million drop down to 300,000, and they're like, "Oh, maybe this isn't as important as we thought it was. Maybe I don't want this. Maybe it's not worth that much." Sure. And then you see this guy not wanting it anymore. Yeah, I think this needs to be held onto for a while for it to actually gain any sort. If it's going to go up in value.
I'm talking like it's got to be gone. You said like out of the limelight for 5-10 years.
Yeah,
I would agree with that. It's got to be gone for a while.
Yep.
Well, besides the little museum exhibits here and there. Well, that was a fun topic.